2 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan. I am here to talk about 2, unfortunately, very unsexy movies with Lori from Queer Horror Cult.
Yeah, you roped me into this one too.
I will still say one of these, while not being good in any sense of the term, I still love. The other one, very rough.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I noticed you weren't able to rope any of your other co-hosts into watching these movies.
Well, that was never gonna happen.
Fair
And
enough.
Kit, I was just like, look, if you could find them, you can join us, but I don't suggest buying either of them to join us.
Yeah, you don't go out of your way for these.
Yeah. Like, it was a thing that I think if they were somehow streaming easily that wasn't on, like, Pornhub or some shit.
Oh yeah, don't you know Disney Plus just snapped up Code Red's like library of movies, so those are gonna be on there.
just fucking porno Holocaust and get, like, right next to Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, so we are going to be talking about Joe D'Amato's unwise decision to make 2 movies that mixed hardcore and horror, and yeah, it doesn't go well. So we'll be talking about Erotic Nights of the Living Dead from 1980 and Porno Holocaust from 1981.
Yeah, is that a nut they've ever managed to crack? Just like hardcore and horror together in something that's actually worth watching.
I don't know. I mean, I know there's like enough like straight up like porn parodies of
Yeah,
like Reanimator and shit like that, but I haven't seen them to gauge whether they're actually worth it or not.
yeah, fair
But
enough.
leave it to Italy in the 80s.
Hey, if it's an idea that could be had, they're gonna try it.
All right. Well, let's talk about how we each kind of discovered these for the first time.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so it has haunted me since the first day, the first episode of this fucking podcast, where one of the reasons Kit and I started this podcast was like my ex-wife was somebody who was like, would have these like terrible nightmares from horror movies. So I had like almost the entire time we were married where I just wasn't keeping up on stuff because it was just like, even something as like lame as like, I don't know, Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead,
Right.
like she would have like a month long like nightmares from. So I just didn't get to stay caught up or watch a lot of horror movies.
Hmm.
And Kit and I starting the podcast was like me being like, okay, I need to like get back into this thing that I was like I loved, and like kind of get caught back up on shit while also talking about dumb movies we both liked. And the first episode I was like, yeah, like we did a top 5 like favorite horror movies and favorite like bad horror movies, and Erotic Nights of the Living Dead was on one of mine, and I was like, yeah, I've never seen anything else by this like Joe D'Amato guy. I don't think he made any other movies. And then immediately was like, oh wait, this dude made like probably 200 fucking movies.
Yeah.
So like this like anytime I think about this movie, that like thing always comes to mind. I'm like, man, remember the fucking first episode where I was like, this fucking weird nobody that didn't make any movies. So yeah, like I had stumbled across this in like a used DVD store, Erotic Nights of the Living Dead specifically, and bought like an out of print DVD for like $50 because I was like, there's no way I'm passing up a movie with that title. I had like no idea what it was, didn't realize it had like actual people fucking in it.
Yeah.
And so like I watched it the first time and I was like, this is bizarre. Like I'm kind of here for it because it was wildly different than literally anything else I'd ever seen. Like I can't say it's good, but it's like it's definitely its own thing.
Yeah, it'll stick in the brain, that's for sure.
And then when Erotic Nights of the Living Dead got released on Blu-ray finally, I saw they had Porno Holocaust up too, and I bought that, and it's a whole other thing because it's fucking 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah, those running times were not doing them any favors.
No. What about you?
Okay, yeah, I used to fucking like I liked the concept of horror movies, but I hated them because they would give me nightmares. Like as a kid, I was scared of my own shadow practically, and it was almost like this I need to get over this kind of weird rubbernecking at horror movies that I had going on. And that kind of hit a fever pitch of in high school. I was just trying to get the most fucked up shit I could find because that was the sort of high school edgelord shit where it's just like, oh, are you a bad enough dude to watch like fucking Solo, that sort of thing. And so I saw a boot of Porno Holocaust, and yeah, I guess time it has that effect on the brain where when the Blu-rays eventually came out, I just remembered like I've seen that, so I should buy this Blu-ray as opposed to it was good and I should buy it. Like that never entered into it. So I did the same thing. I got Porno Holocaust and Erotic Nights of the Living Dead when Diabolic had them together. And yeah, I hadn't seen Erotic Nights before. And I kind of wish I hadn't seen Porno Holocaust before because then I wouldn't have fucking bought it probably.
I like I will always like watch anything I come across, like anything I find on like Blu-ray now that is Joe D'Amato directed. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know this is probably not good, but I'm buying it anyway. Like I've accidentally watched his movie Sexy Pirates twice now, despite it just being fucking terrible. Because I watched it the first time and I was like, oh man, this sucks. And then I came across it on YouTube during some like random search. I think I might have just looked up. There's like these two Joe D'Amato like documentaries I've been trying to track down that I just like can't find. So periodically I'll search YouTube hoping somebody will like upload them.
Right.
And yes. Oh, Xerxes yelling at me. Hi.
Hey Xerxes, I hope Porno Holocaust didn't like traumatize you as well.
So yeah, I searched that and I was like, oh, I don't know if I've seen this movie, and ended up watching it again and went to rate it on Letterboxd, and it was just like, oh wait, I already watched this. Yeah, Xerxes is mad about having to watch it too. So I'll watch like anything he puts out because I don't know, like I know most of it's going to be terrible, but he's got those like gems of like legitimate classic movies in his filmography. So
Yeah, like his I'll always go hard for absurd, Italian
yeah,
Halloween. What's not to love?
yeah,
But
that one's great.
that's kind of me with him as well as that's sort of the Jess Franco effect in my mind too. I have disliked more Jess Franco than I liked, but when I was going through my movie collection and like I was using some app to catalog things in case like the house fucking burns down or something, and I the most prolific director for stuff I own is Jess Franco by like a large margin. It's like, couldn't have been someone I actually like.
It's probably true for me too, except I generally like, even if it's stuff with Jess Franco that I don't fully love, like that's the same way with Joe D'Amato. I think like a lot of his movies, like both of their movies, are like at least shot really well. Like they like
Yeah.
Joe D'Amato specifically has got a very like obviously coming from like a cinematographer background. Like I don't know, like both of them, I can at least appreciate the way they shoot movies, even if like the stories are a lot of
Yeah.
the time just a reason to just have like boobs on screen.
Yeah, they're very good at shooting like just random naked people and like scenic beach shots.
Like,
So I guess this movie was trying to do both.
yeah. Like that's one of the things with Severin is like they constantly will like release Jess Franco movies where I'm just like, this probably isn't good, but I'm gonna buy it anyway because I'm sure it'll at least be interesting. And then it's just like, what's her name?
Oh, Lena Romy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like rolling around on a bed for an hour and a half.
Yes, I too have seen Shining Sex.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Erotic Nights of the Living Dead.
All right.
Said from 1980. both of these movies generally have like it's like the same plot, but almost like switched roles between George Eastman and Mark Shannon, I think is his name.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Um, uh, at least Erotic Nights of the Living Dead has Laura Gemser in it.
Yeah.
Also,
She's in both, I think.
is she?
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing her in Porno Holocaust, but
Yeah,
um,
porno Holocaust kind of fogs the mind like that.
God, like we'll get to it, but it's just so little happens for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, Erotic Eyes of the Living Dead is basically about this like businessman who wants to take his girlfriend to an island that he's trying to build a resort on, but instead there's an old man who's, I guess, controlling like voodoo zombies on the island.
Yeah, there's just this graveyard there. Also, I just quickly looked. I was wrong on the Laura Gamzer thing. Maybe I just wanted her to be there to
Yeah,
make it better.
yeah. I was gonna say the unfortunate thing is somehow how this movie made both her and George Eastman relatively unsexy throughout the entire thing somehow.
That is a tall order, too.
um, yeah, and I don't know if this can't have been the first. I forget. I know I've seen like an interview with George Eastman talking about like writing
Yeah.
both of these, which is I I don't know. It's I can't imagine like I want a documentary about the making or the ideas of how both of these movies came to be.
Yeah, that would be great. I think that, that series going on right now, Cursed Films, is like the title doesn't quite apply. It should apply to movies like these
Yeah.
movies that truly feel cursed when you watch them.
I need that show to get to like season 10 where they've run out of like big name shit like The Omen and whatnot, and they're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, Porno Holocaust.
Yeah. You could tell from the structure too, and I think I was reading something earlier about this that it's pure businessman coming out in that where it's like, okay, we're gonna, we've got this location, we've got this cast and crew. Let's film two movies for the price of one, and like they made both movies at the same time. Essentially, is my understanding.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just these two, but I know like when you look at like some of the stuff, it'll be like separated by like this was his Italian period. This is when he was in like this country making movies, and this was
Yeah.
like they say this is like his Dominican Republic period because he made at least these two, and I'm assuming at least something else. It's like how like Diodato Riagato would go to like make Cannibal Holocaust and then make like 3 other movies while he was there,
Yeah.
which fuck it, I guess take advantage of like because that's the thing is at least like the scenery in these two movies once they get to the islands is like gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like almost everything else. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess at least in this like the like background of like anytime you're on the boat and like kind of what like there's like a scene where like the Mark Shannon comes up and is like trying to convince George Eastman's character to like take him to the island, and it's like pretty cool looking too, but like you just get a lot of stuff like especially when you get to like Porno Holocaust that's just like the first 30 minutes of the movie is just like inside of a fucking hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. That was actually one of the things I noticed with Erotic Nights is plot wise, there's about 5 minutes of movie, maybe 10, up to when they get to the island. It's just there's so much fucking going on that it takes a while for them to get there.
Yeah, it takes a long I would say like half the movie before you even get to the island. And
Yeah.
then once you get to the island it's just like I don't know, people walking around and then like a very unsanitary looking sex scenes.
Oh God. I think that sums up both of these movies
Like
pretty damn well.
people fucking on like wet soggy logs like by the water and shit.
Oh God.
That's like all I'm just like this seems probably not great.
Well, I think one of the first porno scenes in this one with Mark Shannon, it like I couldn't help but fucking laugh at this moment because it's when the women are going after him in the shower, and it cuts in with that like typical Italian exploitation movie dub over, but like porno dirty talking,
Oh my god.
and it was just I fucking lost it at that. Just hearing the typical kind of bad dub job you'd hear in these cheap ones, but then it's just like, oh yeah, go for that, baby. But in like, did you like record this while on a flight to go shoot another movie into a tape deck, and that's how they dubbed it?
I was talking to Kit and Katie about watching like the English dub of it, where like it just sounds like the same person does every male voice in the movie.
Yeah,
And they just sound like general from the middle of nowhere, like American.
yeah,
And so like it just doesn't work seeing like that voice come out of, especially like George Eastman. But
yeah,
that scene specifically, I fucking blocked out of my mind as soon as it got done. But like, like just picturing them having to go in to do like the dub of like these sex scenes of just like the least sexy sex talk.
yeah. It reminds me of the opening to Necromantic 2, where that guy's job is like dubbing porno.
There's gotta be so, like, I can't imagine how awkward that job has to be.
Yeah, I've done some ADR work for stuff before, but never in that milieu.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, maybe there's still time in my future.
Yeah, it could be
New
new
venture.
career. Yeah, I like all of the actual sex scenes in this are like awkwardly shot and
Mhm.
just like weird, I guess. Like they're wildly unflattering for almost everybody in them.
Yeah, like it's so weird when porno movies make me like. Not only do I find like the sex scenes the least interesting part about them, but it's like this actively makes me want to not have sex.
Yeah, that would be both of these movies, I would
Yeah,
say.
it's like, oh shit, I'm just gonna like, take stock of my life. That's what I'm gonna do today.
It's it's been interesting because I've been like buying a lot of the stuff Vinegar Syndrome's been putting out,
Yeah.
and like it's just like a lot of the shit from like this era, just as like you could tell no one like planned shots. They're just like holding a camera and they're just like, I don't know, go at it, and I'm just gonna like walk in a circle around you and just like
Yeah.
zoom in and out of things, and like it's just like I don't know. At least I've put like some thought into this, I guess, because
Yeah. It could be bat pussy levels of bad.
oh
So
yeah, that's true. That's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
yeah. Yeah.
That's one that I'm very glad that I like chickened out on actually buying on Blu-ray, because I was like, I don't know what this is, but that's an incredible title. I gotta see this. And then eventually just like signed up for Arrow streaming service and it was on there and I watched it and I was like, well, thank God I didn't.
You're lucky you somehow like psychically learned from my mistake.
I do have a VHS copy of it I found for $10, but I was like, I can't not buy this. But
Yeah, yeah, I think that would have been me too. I don't even have a VCR currently, and I still would have probably fucking bought
yeah,
it.
I didn't have a working one at the time, but I was like, there's no way I'm passing this up.
Yeah.
So yeah, like everything leading up to them getting to the island in this is just essentially sex scenes that are pretty terrible, including one of this woman doing like a sort of striptease that results in her opening a bottle of champagne with her pussy. That is
Yeah, I got such big Sylvia Stickles vibes from Dirty Shame with that. Just like, I'm just gonna pop this bottle open.
it's just like it doesn't make sense and like doesn't really look good. And all I can think about is like the UTI.
Yeah, that's oh fuck. That's like so many of these movies, like whether it's like they're like actually going at it or it's faked or whatever, the whole time it's like, oh god, do you not like have you never been there? Do you just like not understand how much UTIs suck?
Yeah, like if that's the scene that the first time I watched this has always stuck with me too, because like the idea that like the cork was still on when she's using it, and it pops
Yeah.
open, and then the cork's just gone, and I'm like, so that cork had to go somewhere, and corks will tend to pop off with a lot of strength. Like, it's just a
Yeah.
very bizarre scene.
Kegels of steel.
So all of this shit happens, and then they finally like take off to go to the island, and get to the
Yeah.
island, and Mark Shannon immediately starts fucking on this island. I know he does at least in Porno Holocaust as well. I'm
I'm
assuming
pretty
it
sure he
happens in this
fucks
one.
on this one too. They get onto the beach and they just start fucking. Well, yeah, it's great seeing the difference between Mark Shannon and George Eastman in this, where one's like, typical film fucking, where it's like, yeah, okay, it's faked or it's shot in a way that
Yeah.
it's, plausible deniability, whereas Mark Shannon, it's just like, hey, get closer to my nutsack with the camera. I just want everyone to know what's going on down there.
I was gonna say it's very like that was one of the things with like George Eastman writing these that like I like in my mind I feel like the years between like having it on the DVD and then into the Blu-ray where like I hadn't seen it in a while, like in my mind George Eastman like legitimately was fucking in it too, and that was like part of the point.
Yeah.
And then I remember like I rewatched it this time and I was just like this is very like just Showtime softcore stuff he's doing, because it's just like him like into the water where you can't even like see hips at all.
Yeah, just false memories of Eastman's hog.
Just I guess just the the I don't know, the want of seeing it.
Yeah, come on, Luigi Montefiore, as is his real name. Give us what we want.
Yeah. So they get to the island, and like Laura Gessmer is there with I guess who's supposed to be her dad, just telling them that they shouldn't be on this island, even though I guess Mark Shannon has bought the island to build a resort.
Yeah,
And
Mark Shannon's just got that capitalist approach of like, no, you get off my
yeah,
island.
be like, I paid for this. This is my Hawaii now.
Jeez.
Fucking Mark Zuckerberg. um, and then they start getting killed off by very not great looking zombies.
Yeah, and the end, then they start getting killed off. Felt like it was like maybe 20 minutes left to the movie.
Yeah, this movie is also 111 minutes. It is close to 2 hours as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like the second half, once they get to the island, I'm pretty on board with. Like, it's slow, but it's got that like Tomb of the Blind Dead kind of slowness that I enjoy to it.
Yeah, I could see that. I was thinking that climax at times kind of reminded me of a very like a like the Kmart brand version of Zombie 2 almost, with how they paced the fun. Like, there's something about how Italian movies do zombies that I just love. They're like slower than slow, but they're this unstoppable menace.
Yeah. Like the zombies in this, and I guess it's like a nuclear radiated person in fucking Porno Holocaust, but like I just appreciate the like I don't know, like slap some like colored cornflakes on their face so they just look like they have some fucking rotting flesh, and we're good.
Yeah.
Just the like lackadaisical approach to like makeup in both of these movies.
Yeah, I felt like this must have been we spent all our money on the hotel room they fucked in forever. It's like, shit, we can't really afford the makeup now.
Yeah. And like I don't know, George Eastman in like the last 20 minutes of this is pretty good as like the uh like hero, I guess, of the movie.
Yeah, I liked that turn. That I can't think of many movies where he fits that role.
Yeah, there's like I know there's like a lot of like I know he's done like westerns and like some of those like Mad Max ripoff movies that I've yet to see, but because I
Oh
feel
yeah, he's in Endgame and he's pretty great in that.
yeah, I still haven't watched that. I still have it, but I while I was unemployed, I was like going through all the shit I owned that I hadn't watched yet, and I started from like the Z's in my uh collection and only made it to like I think ends, something like that. So
Hey, that's pretty good effort though.
yeah, still working my way through a bunch of stuff and haven't made it to Endgame yet, but I think everything I've seen him in, it's like yeah, it's just shit like Absurd and Anthropophagus and shit.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. George Eastman's pretty much always good. He's at least watchable in it, like everything I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. Oftentimes I find some of the stuff he's usually the highlight of the movie, but I'm never sad to see him on screen.
No, he's just got like a very interesting like charisma to him that works well as like either this very like boisterous like weird killer in a movie or like I guess can't necessarily say he's the hero, but Emmanuel and Francois or whatever that movie's called is like he's not necessarily the bad guy. He's just held captive for a long time in it.
Right. I haven't actually watched that one. That's in my I have it but haven't watched it yet pile.
I mean, it's fine. It's a very strange Emmanuel movie, so you kind of know
Yeah.
what you're getting into, but he's very sweaty and clean shaven through a lot of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's like some of the like the thing with this one that I think that does a lot better than Porno Holocaust is like the last 20 minutes when they're just kind of running around trying to escape these zombies. They like go into like a shack or some shit that's got like whatever that idol is that protects them from the cats and shit. I forgot
right.
there were fucking cats in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the shack kind of looks pretty interesting. Definitely looks like a fucking throwaway thing that could have been in like Fulci Zombie. Like I don't know. I like a lot of that part. I like their escape. Like I like the fucking weird like madness laughing he's fucking doing at the end.
Yeah, I have some questions about that ending, but just before that with the zombie thing, I think it's how Mark Shannon gets attacked, but I can't remember 100%. But there's just this fucking long shot of this person running towards the camera with some sporadic trees, and then as they run past a tree, a zombie steps out and grabs them, and it's like. But from their angle, they saw the fucking zombie the whole time. Like, it was just standing behind the tree on their side of the tree. And the guy just ran at it. And then it was like, oh, I'm just going to ignore the zombies here. It's like some real Scooby-Doo ass shit.
It rules. It also rules that when they all start coming out of the ground, like you'll see this like shot just kind of like coming over the sand. And it's very obvious that like their heads are all out of the ground and they're just sort of buried in sand.
Right,
so, like,
yeah.
The way it looks once they all start like coming out of the sand is like you would have stepped and tripped over all of these bodies just walking along this beach.
Definitely.
Mark Shannon getting his dick bit off. Just
I'm kind of glad that happened in at least one of these movies because, like, how are you going to do a porno horror movie and not have someone's dick get bit off?
it rules and is also like just adds to like how unsexy everything in this movie is. I can't remember the name of the company that released it now. I know Stake Mountain designed it, but I have an Erotic Nights of the Living Dead shirt.
Oh, damn.
That has this like sick, very, very similar to like a Blind Dead kind of print on the back. And the front just has the shot of like the lady with the dick and like the bit off dick in her mouth. It just says Joe D'Amato Gang on it.
That's like the greatest shirt I've ever heard of in my life.
It fucking rules. Like I had never heard of the company that Screen Slate, maybe something like that. I'll have to look it up, but I had never heard of it. And it just like randomly got like reposted into like my feed either on Twitter or Instagram, and I was like, "Is that a Joe D'Amato shirt?" I was like, "Oh, is this? I'm buying the shit out of this."
You're like, stop everything. I need to get to a computer immediately.
And I think like the first time I wore it, I had like I don't even know if I'd paid attention to what the print was on the front. And like we went somewhere and I was like just like happened to look down, I was like, oh, I got a shirt, like I'm wearing a shirt with a bit off dick on the front, like at this weird sort of formal gathering.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll forever like back this movie, even though I can fully admit it's not good. it it's especially for like what else was happening in Italian movies at the time. Like this definitely doesn't hold up compared to like anything like Argento was doing right now or Fulci. Even even the Joe D'Amato like straight up horror movies around this time are like pretty great, and this is just it's just like a weird mishmash of shit that shouldn't be happening together.
Figure it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm working, and that's just where it comes down to it.
I mean, I appreciate the like fortitude to be like, hey, here's these two things we're already doing, making movies of. Like, what if we made them together? Because, I mean, I don't know if something like this had happened before. I'm sure it's probably something.
Yeah.
Like, but, at least this one was like a formidable try as opposed to Porno Holocaust, which we'll get into in a minute, just being
Yeah.
pretty abysmal all the way through.
I definitely appreciate that they went for it. Whether anyone who watches it thinks it's successful or not, it's like, hey, at least they fucking tried.
Yeah. And like like this one specifically like while none of like the hardcore stuff necessarily works, it's I guess maybe it might have in like that time. Like it some of the horror stuff, like once they get to the island, I'm pretty on board with. Like it's just like
Yeah.
kind of a slow zombie movie, but I don't know, it's again, but neither of these needed to be 2 hours.
Well, that's sort of the thing that I feel about with these movies is they very much feel like those low budget exploitation movies where interesting stuff, there's enough footage there to make a trailer, and then there's like an hour 10 of the rest of the movie to pad out to a running time. Like it's often slow or bad pacing, but you just kind of accept with the genre. But the thing about these is rather than the porn scenes being in place of those slow moments, it's in addition to those slow moments. Like there's a 75-minute movie in there with a bunch of porn as well.
I saw like some trivia thing saying that like I think when it first kind of got a release in America, it was in a 48-minute cut, which feels perfect.
That's like an extended Tales from the Crypt episode.
I'm sure the 48-minute cut of it is just the first 48 minutes, though. They just never get to the island.
Yeah, it's just like, oh man, well, we're gonna do this porno horror thing, but like we gotta leave the horror on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, any last thoughts?
Yeah, the wraparound and ending kind of threw me for a loop because it starts with George Eastman in this he's institutionalized and
Oh, yeah, I
he's
forgot about
hooking
that.
up with someone in the boiler room. And then the movie kind of cuts into the movie proper and it's like, oh, so is this like a flashback to why he's there and all that? But the ending of the movie, when they've like gotten away and then he just starts hooking up, it cuts right back into that scene where the boiler room scene is like mirroring almost what's going on in it makes the island scenes feel almost like a delusion in his head. And then I'm just sitting there like, okay, so is the movie like he was driven mad by everything on the island, or is it that he's delusional and he's imagined the island because of the trauma being on the island caused? And it's like, is this a chicken or an egg situation of like what's real and what's like where's his delusion coming from in this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, every time I watch this, I forget that whole, like, yeah, like, the wraparound even exists. Like, in my mind, the ending is just him, like, maniacally laughing in the island, and then there's just, like, that typical fucking, like, freeze frame all like, you know, like every Italian movie at this time just
Yeah. I
ends.
fucking love Italian movies where it's just like the second it's wrapped up, it just says like Aveti Visto, and then the title comes up again. You're like, fuck yeah. Uh, but also that wraparound, I had the thing that made me snort laugh the hardest in that when he's hooking him in the boiler room. It just cuts to some random dude cranking off, watching them, and it's like, who the fuck is this
And
guy?
like the orderlies or whatever come to get him, and it's just like, yep, just up to this again. Like,
It's a treasure though. I think I appreciated it more because this was my second watch. Because I watched it when I first got the Blu-ray. I liked it more this time, and the more I actually think it through, it's like, yeah, this is definitely superior to Porno Holocaust in so many ways.
yeah, it's like I've said a couple times, like I can't say it's a good movie,
Yeah.
but it's an interesting movie that I feel like, especially if you are into Italian movies, especially like horror movies, like it's worth giving a watch at least once.
Yeah, definitely.
Just I guess could have said at the beginning, just, you know, if you aren't fully aware already, there's a lot of Mark Shannon's balls in it for some reason.
Yeah, they really loved that angle.
They do it a lot in Porto Holocaust, and it's a real bummer. So yeah, we'll jump to 1981's Porno Holocaust. Basically the same plot, but sort of reversed, where it's just George Eastman's character wants to go to this island because he is a doctor that was a part of some fucking, I don't know, nuclear bomb testing or some shit. I'm never really sure.
Yeah, yeah. I love the scientists in this. It's like these are the least scientists I've seen in a movie, and I'm kind of okay with that.
George Eastman playing a scientist is an incredible choice.
It's got some very Denise
I was
Richards playing a scientist in that Bond movie
he's
energy.
he's like so swarthy, and like, again, like I just, knowing the other stuff he always plays, I'm just like, I can't take this seriously.
Yeah, actually, swarthy's a great word for it. Like he would fucking kill in pirate movie.
Oh yeah, he's just like sweaty all the time and everything, and it just works for his look because like he's got pre 2000s emo hair through a lot of
Yeah,
stuff, but it's always like sweaty and wild, and I'm here for it.
yeah. But
Um,
it's funny that you mentioned that they both have the same plot because I think Porno Holocaust is almost like a good halfway point between Erotic Nights and Anthropophagus because like it's the same kind of thing. Eastman, except it's Eastman this time, but it's like, oh, weird radioactive mutant on an island killing people.
it's it's also like, again, like the last thing I want to see in like a hardcore movie is a fucking weird irradiated monster like having his way with like with ladies.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very unpleasant. Like basically, for anyone who hasn't seen or doesn't know about this, the creature's MO is that he kills people with his giant dick and his radioactive jizz. It's
which
like,
sounds like
yeah.
it sounds like we're talking about like a Japanese movie, because that's like just some shit I expect to be in like a Pinky Violence Japanese movie,
Oh,
as opposed to
100%.
like,
That's like some entrails of a beautiful woman shit right there.
oh man, that movie's fucking rough.
I feel like that movie and its like sister movie have been completely blocked from my memory. I know I've seen them, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about them
They,
except that they were traumatizing to me at like 15 years old.
yeah, I saw them in like my 20s and was like, this is not anything I ever want to watch again. I have like a
Yeah.
very distinct image of like whatever the monster person in that movie is like having sex with somebody, and you get like a weird almost X-ray shot of like the dick, like like just tearing apart like her insides. It's fucked up. There,
Oh, no fucking wonder I don't remember
there
this.
was
I wonder if I've even seen it.
well, there was like this guy in like when I lived in Ohio for like a year opened up his own rental store, but it was all of his own movies, and it was just like had like a bunch of like cool horror stuff, but then he just had like a bunch of that like fucked up like Japanese like horror sex stuff that I remember renting that because I was like, this is an interesting title. I was like, I'll see what this is all about, and I was like, oh, this is a bummer.
Yeah, there's a lot of those movies from that era, and that's the only word you can use to describe them.
Yeah. You're always like, oh, that's like a very death metal title. I'll see what this is about. And then you're just like, oh, this is just about like a rape monster, I guess. I
Yeah, it's
should have
like,
known.
very Cannibal Corpse of you, and it's like, oh, so the movie is just like their covers too.
Yeah. um. Yeah. So, Porno Holocaust, like, just another movie where people are going to an island and there's just, I don't know, a fucked up monster there. But this time, I think it's just the one monster.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I can never remember if there's like more than one because I feel like by the time I get to the island, I'm so checked out of this movie that
Well, having probably seen it more times than you at this point, which is a shameful thing to admit on something that will be listened to publicly. Um, it again follows kind of the Anthropophagus movie premise where it's like the monster's family has died, and that is kind of what set them off. Like they're already sort of monstrous, but like he kidnaps the main lady in this, I guess, and takes her back to like his cave, and that's where it's revealed like, oh, he had a whole family here, and then when they did nuclear tests on the island, it killed his family and mutated him.
what?
So I think it's just him, but yeah,
What a
there's
fucking weird
mutated
premise.
animals. I love the budget. The budget is on full display here when it's like, look at the size of these crabs. I mean, yeah, there are normally crabs this big, but this is normally a really small kind of crab.
Like you could definitely tell that like they made Erotic Night to the Living Dead, and they were just like, well, we used a lot of the budget for that, so I don't know. We have $2,000 left. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, basically.
Um, yeah, the monster, not great looking, not great in general.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like essentially the whole like second half of this movie is just this monster like kidnaps uh Lucia Ramirez, I think is the actress, and then it's just I don't know, raping the rest of the ladies on this island.
Yeah, it's there's something about like a lot of the sort of hardcore movies from this era where so many of them are completely unsexy like that, but then there's some where it's like, oh, this is literally rape, and you're filming it like a porno. Like,
Oh yeah.
how am I supposed to fucking react to this?
Like one of them is like I think the lady's like unconscious the whole time, and like the way they shoot it is very like supposed to be sexy, and I'm like, this is not, like, nothing about this. Like, number one, she's unconscious. Number two, it's an irradiated monster.
Yeah, it's like it would be unsexy as hell if it was actually like an affirmative consenting scene, but it's already like poorly done, and then on top of it you have the context, which just like you said before, it's a bummer.
Yeah, like almost everything in this one is like it. Uh, and it's I don't know, like, and it's like their story. The story doesn't really go anywhere. Where it's like it almost feels like they're heading towards like a Beauty and the Beast kind of thing with like the monster and like the character, like the lady he kidnaps or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that just goes nowhere. She just like gets freed by Mark Shannon and like runs off the island.
And then treats us to more of his balls while they fuck.
So did you notice the fucking error at the end of this movie that after they get done fucking and they're like blatantly on the shore of this beach instead of the middle of the ocean, like flagging down that ship,
Yeah.
as they're waving down, George Eastman's head pops up from behind the boat.
I didn't notice that. Oh fuck, there's a reason to put the disc back on.
I think I'll see if I can find it. There's like a clip like on YouTube from it where it's just like this weird continuity error where they're just like waving, and like at the end of the boat for like a solid, I don't know, second and a half, you see who I believe is George Eastman just like stand up behind the boat.
Yeah, he's just like, you guys done filming? Nope. Oop. Well, that was literally our last scrap of film, so I guess print it.
It's like for a second you're just like, wait, are they doing like a Friday the 13th thing? And then I'm like, wait, George Eastman wasn't the bad guy in this. And then like it just immediately cuts to like, the Italian way of like the end, goodbye.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like,
Oh fuck. This fucking movie.
yeah, it's I like the trivia on IMDb is just Joe D'Amato, uncredited reporter. Is like one of the roles.
I love it. I love that you get this sense that any and all extras in this movie are just the crew.
Oh yeah, like both of these movies, there's like a total of like maybe 6 people in the whole cast.
Yeah.
I think this one's got a little more because they spend fucking, I don't know, an hour of the movie in a hotel where there's just other people around. Because
Yeah, for all the faults that you're pointing out for Erotic Nights, they're almost like tenfold in this. It's just like, oh, why are you just chilling and not actually going to the island for half the movie? And it fucking drags in this one.
yeah, it's just more like not great sex scenes just for way longer. Because this one's, I think, has a lot more
Yeah.
in it, like sex scenes in it, and just like, I don't know, they're just not good. I don't want to see Mark, like, just the shots of Mark Shannon's balls, like him 69ing throughout like the whole thing, or just like, oh, like just the most unsexy like tongue movements.
Oh, fuck's sake. I'm like having flashbacks just hearing about this.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Um, but I don't know. At least George Eastman looking good in it.
That's another one where it's just like at least George Eastman was there. High point of the movie.
Yeah, that's literally the only plus in the entire, like, pretty much the whole movie.
Yeah.
Um, that and the flubbed ending.
I'm gonna have to fucking load this up after and look at that. That's
Yeah, literally
hilarious.
just go to the last 2 minutes. It's so funny because like you get like the second where like you could tell he's just like, oh shit, and it just cuts.
And I just love that they kept that in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say about this movie.
Uh, yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, ah, you could even be slightly happy that it's slightly more queer in that there's sort of like a bisexual or lesbian relationship going on, but it's in that typical way that no one asked for.
Yeah, it,
Yeah, so it's like that's not even a plus in this context.
yeah, it's very like Cinemaxy as well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, don't watch this one. What have you been watching anything actually good lately?
Yeah, I actually did a great double feature last night. I watched two movies from 1973, Messiah of Evil, and then followed it with The Candy Snatchers. And both of those were like, I would actually recommend watching them.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Candy Snatchers. I haven't gotten to it yet though.
I have never seen a movie quite so cynical in a way where you're actually enjoying the ride. It's just so downbeat, but in a way that doesn't feel like a slog. And there is not a single redeemable person in that movie, or there may be like one, and that makes the movie so much better, in my opinion. It makes it so much more interesting.
Right. I feel like Unsung Horrors did an episode on it, or maybe just talked about it. And I think that's where I heard about it.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to look for that.
Uh, they kind of point out almost any movie that has like child death in it. So,
Oh, okay.
um, oh, I remember. I know what I was gonna ask you about. So I watched Siege after listening
Oh
to y'all's
yeah, yeah.
episode, and that movie fucking rocks.
I can't believe I'd never even heard of it until Severin was putting it out.
I like even listening, like knowing what it was and like how it ended and all that stuff. It still works so well.
Yeah.
It like just a fun, like, fun's not the right word, but like Like, very good, like, assault on Precinct 13 style. Like, I don't know, we got to protect this place we're in.
Yeah, it was like I was expecting to enjoy it from what few description I'd seen, but it really kind of knocked my socks off with how much I enjoyed it. And it fits really nicely into that sort of era of Canadian filmmaking from the sort of mid 70s to the early 80s of like tax shelter films and just the tax credits that got these kind of movies made on the cheap. And
Right.
there's some really good flicks that came out of that.
I'm a big fan of people that are just like, I don't know, we have this like weird space, and like we should just come up with a movie that like utilizes this space and like does it well.
Yeah.
And like, cause like the apartments they're in are very, I don't know, I like very unlike anything I've seen before. And like
Yeah, yeah.
the whole like climbing out of a like a fucking sunroof going into another one. So I don't know. It's a very interesting way the movie like utilizes that space, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, the medicine cabinet scene in that movie, like I
Oh
don't
yeah,
think I've cackled so hard at something.
just the idea of opening your medicine cabinet and you're just seeing into like the next bathroom across from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie rules. Somebody I've been watching just Jackass for the last couple days.
Yeah, I realized that I only seen like the odd clip or like moment on like YouTube from the show, and I'd only seen the first movie. So I binge watched all of them sort of mid last month. And yeah, I'm very glad that I did.
Yeah, I had been like holding off because I was like, I'll just wait. Like I wanted to see Jackass Forever, but I wasn't going to the theater, and I just
Yeah.
was like, I don't know, fuck it, I'll sign up for Paramount Plus like free trial and watch that. And now like I watched Jackass Forever, which incredible. And
Yeah,
then
I'm excited for that one.
I like was like, okay, I was like, I got this free trial for a week. Might as well watch all of the rest of them
Mm.
because I hadn't seen any of the point five ones that were like just extras from the other movies. So I'm excited to watch those. But that's kind of most of what I've been watching this week.
You could do far worse than
Oh
watching
yeah,
a Jackass marathon,
I
that's for sure.
it came after watching like a bunch of Lloyd Kaufman stuff that doesn't hold up.
Any in particular that you're just like, oh fuck, this movie sucked.
Citizen Toxie.
Yeah, 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 okay, yeah.
I mean, so I watched the Class of Nukem High trilogy, which I'll still stand behind. I like the first one a lot. The sequels are not as good, but they're fine.
I have not actually seen any of them, and I've had the first one sitting on my shelf forever, so maybe that'll be what I throw on tonight.
The first one's like very like it's very much along the lines of like Toxic Avenger.
Yeah, that sells me on
Yeah,
it,
so
so
it works,
cool.
and it's kind of follows the same template where like the sequels are not as great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched the four Toxic Avenger movies and just diminishing returns, and then I watched Troma's War, Sergeant Kabuki Man, and Romeo and Juliet.
Sergeant Kabuki Man was the first trauma movie I ever saw. My friend and I rented it in high school when we were pretty broke in high school, so our hangouts would be we would go to Little Caesars and get like those cheap hot and readies, and then go to the video store and get 5 movies for $5, and we just hang out in my basement and pizza and sometimes beer if we could score it. And these movies, Kabuki Man was the first trauma one I saw, and I think we both had the unanimous reaction of like, "What the fuck is this?"
I Toxic Avenger was like most people like my first, and it was like a movie I became like obsessed with, and like it was like I think it was like during a period where Troma was releasing a lot of stuff in like their box set, so I bought like all four Toxic Avenger DVDs and like a box set, and like they did a 3-pack Class of Nukem High and stuff.
Okay.
And Barnes and Noble here used to, for some reason, just carry everything Troma put out.
Oh,
So
cool.
for like a period, I would just go like every paycheck and spend like $150 and just buy a bunch of Troma movies. And like I used to have I don't know, something like 200 trauma movies on DVD that like I sold at one point to like pay rent and shit, which like
Yeah.
I sort of regret but also don't because a lot of it was garbage. But
Yeah,
it's a lot of
I've
out of
learned the
print
hard
garbage
way.
now.
I've learned the hard way. Regrets overselling stuff I hated because there's a lot of movies I ended up rebuying like 5, 10 years later because I'm like, this movie fucking sucked. Shockingly enough, one of the movies that I did that to was City of the Living Dead. I hated it the first time I saw it, and I fucking love that movie now. So,
Yeah,
it's you never
there's
know, right?
there's some of that like trauma stuff that like I would probably still watch regularly.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, I figured like if it's a thing I come across used, I'll rebuy. But like there's a lot of fucking garbage in that catalog.
Yeah.
Like I was like because again like I said I would just buy anything with like the logo on it, which ended up being shit like just like shot on like not even like good shot on video, like the shit shot on video in like 2005.
Oh God.
And it was just like a lot of stuff like that, or just like really bad like cable softcore movies that just were borderline unwatchable.
Yeah, it was always a crapshoot too, because they weren't just like producing their own movies; they were distributing stuff too, and so they did some classics that sort of punch above the weight of their usual stuff, but then they also did some licensed some really bad stuff that you're just like, why is this even a trauma movie?
Yeah, like cause like a lot of it was stuff that I'm like I can't imagine you're making money off these other than like people like me that will
Yeah,
just buy it because the Troma logo was on it.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think that's roughly about. Like, pretty much is just jackasses all I've been watching this week.
yeah.
Uh,
Fair enough.
just making making the bleak world a little less bleak with people get punched in the nuts.
I just love how Simpsons predicted man gets hit by football, and it's like, ah,
You haven't seen Forever yet?
I have not.
Oh
No.
man, I there's the most like there's a thing that happens that I won't spoil that's like somehow the most painful looking thing in it,
Oh,
but like compared to like we were talking about it in the episode we recorded last night that I recorded with Kit and Katie about it, and like there's a thing that happens in it that's so like not doesn't like I mean it does sound painful, but like when you see it you'll know what I'm talking about. Like it's one of those things that's
okay.
so like easy to come up with the idea that I'm like I'd rather be bit in the dick by a snake than have this happen to me, and it's like nothing
Oh,
along
wow.
those lines. It's fucked up and it just looks so painful.
Wow. Because I still contend that, like, I've seen so many, like, fucked up exploitation movies and, like, stuff that, they're not even ethically made, like a lot of those Italian cannibal movies and stuff. And I still think the thing I have the hardest time sitting through is the paper cut skit from the
Oh my
first movie.
god, the fucking it's
Like,
Steve-O
I looked
coming down
away
is like, man,
more.
I'm glad I came into this room to see what was going on.
Yeah. I looked away more from the screen during that than I did watching, like, the OG Faces of Death, even. Like, that's how much that one just fucking, like, nope.
Yeah, I've where I've been watching them, like it's real interesting when you get I think past like the second movie, and it becomes a lot more just them pranking each other as opposed to like just random people they come across,
Yeah.
which I enjoy more. Like I think the part of me that like the gets like the cringe part of like seeing like some of the shit of like in the first one where Knoxville, like where they rent the car and do the crash derby with it, and it's just like all of the shit of him arguing with these two dudes that are like, what the fuck are we gonna do with this car?
Yeah.
Like I kind of want less of, and I just want more of them just like throwing fucking snakes at Bam Margera.
There's such like a sense of camaraderie going on between them.
Yeah, it's I think Kit talks about it. He's like, it's like the thing that we needed to come out in like mid 2020. Like,
Yeah, they answered the call.
yeah. All right. That's should have just talked about Jackass this whole episode instead.
Yeah, yeah, like the 20 or 30 minutes of erotic nights, and it's like, and then I guess we watched nothing else. So let's talk about the Jackass we recently checked out.
um, do you want to tell people where they can find Queer Horror Cult and
Yeah,
anything cool
sure.
y'all have going on?
Yeah, we're our schedule's kind of like so fucked up right now, like because of COVID scares and where we're living right now. The government's really dropping the ball, so we're just
Same.
it's so fucked. But so our releases are going to be a bit more sporadic. But yeah, Queer Horror Cult podcast that we ostensibly do every 2 weeks. And then we've got an Instagram and Twitter under those names, under Queer Horror Cult, and that's about it, I guess. If you want to see me talk about stupid shit, I'm a Lori Hole on Twitter, and yeah, that's all I've really got to plug.
Yeah, go follow Lori. Go listen to Queer Horror Cult. It's like I say every time, my favorite horror podcast.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Banger of a theme song.
Yeah, I have been fucking around with music more. I'm hoping to get better enough that I can justify setting up a band camp.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to support I Hope You Suffer, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/I Hope You Suffer podcast. I think right after this episode comes out, we got an episode dropping on 3 kaiju movies, if I remember correctly, something like that.
Oh, damn, that sounds cool.
Yeah, we're doing a thing where we're letting like whatever level on our Patreon that like usually votes on themes, we're letting each patron pick a triple feature for us.
Oh, that's so cool.
And Dylan from Diary of Doom he said he picked a good, a bad but good, and then a straight up bad, like, you know, giant lizard type movies. So it's one of those.
You got a good following when it's like, well, we have to punish you a little bit.
The one we just did, my friend Irene picked 3 Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, like Hammer horror movies.
Oh yeah,
which is really good. But also, I watched all 3 the night Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, and so I ended up being on Twitter through like most of them and not fully paying attention and didn't get a chance to rewatch them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what happened in any of these movies, but like it was the point where I like one of them, I swear I didn't even see Christopher Lee in. That's how much of it I missed.
I'm taking it on faith that he was in this movie.
But yeah, that'll be I think this will drop the last week of April, something like that.
Okay, cool.
And then we're on Instagram and shit, and all the shit I say at the end of every episode. Lori, thanks again. Always a blast.
Well, thanks for having me. If you ever need someone to fill time, you can always contact me. I'm always down.
Yeah, next time we'll do something less porno-y. We'll figure out something. We'll just do.
I feel like I just heard like the finger on a monkey's paw curling.
We're gonna just do a Jess Franco episode now.
Well, it'd be real easy for me to watch that stuff.
Yeah, same. All right. I hope you suffer, but why?